All right, Dalton, another video for you guys today. We're going to do our most underrated teams in college football heading into the 2024 season. Dalton and I each have 4 teams that we're going to present to you guys today as getting really underrated by fans, the national media, and even the sports books in terms of the over-under win totals that we have right now. So, Dalton, kick us off with one of your most underrated teams in the country right now.
I'm going to start us off with a team that I think has no business being in a conversation like this, and it's Arizona, man. A 10-game winner last year, finished in the top 10 of the country, beat Oklahoma in a New Year's Six bowl game, and the books have them currently at an over-under of 7.5 wins, moving to a Big 12 conference that is a different but not as high-flying as the Pac-12 was last year. Look, Arizona by the end of the year was one of the best teams in the country, right? 16th in overall grade, 8th in offensive grade. Noah Fafita is one of our top 10 quarterbacks. Tetro McMillan might be the best receiver in the country. Takario Davis is probably one of the 3 or 4 best corners in the country. They have elite talent. Now, I get it. Jedfish is gone. They have a new coach in there, right? Jonah Coleman's gone. We're a little unsure of their running game. But it's so hard for me to sit here and go 7.5. Like, if Arizona went 7-5, that'd be a massive disappointment. Like, I'm looking at them being like in Big 12 contention and in playoff contention, right? And you've got the way Fafita threw the ball downfield in their last like 4 or 5 games last year. I believe he came in at number 7 on our list. He can easily be in like the top 4 if he plays like he did down the stretch last year. Look, from week 7 to the end of the year, Arizona had the 4th best offense in the country. They were 1st in receiving grade, and they had the 11th best defense in the country. Like, I have no idea what we're sleeping on here with Arizona. Like, to me, with Fafita and McMillan alone, that should win them 8 games. I don't know how in the world a 7.5 under hits for Arizona this year. Barring obviously injuries or what have you. Like, they have legitimate talent. 2 first-round picks at least on their team, possibly a 3rd one with Jonah Savanea at right tackle, and Fafita, who, despite the size, is really darn good. He's accurate as hell. He started throwing downfield late in the year. Like, I see Arizona being at the top of Big 12 contention, and somehow they have an over-under at 7.5. I'm missing the disconnect here. If you can find it, help me out, but I really don't get it. Why? Like, of all the teams we're going to talk about, I really don't even feel like we should be talking about Arizona in an episode like this.
No, I don't think we should either. And the fact that they're 7.5, I agree, is very, very low. I think they're a top 20 team in the country, man. Even with all the losses they had this offseason, I still think Arizona absolutely should be up there. I'm going to go with another Big 12 team here. That is UCF right now, because UCF, man, their ground game is going to be freaking electric next year. It's going to be unbelievable. I think UCF has the 2nd best running back unit in the country. You see the over-under right there is also 7.5. They went 6-7 last year. But I think there's a big chance for improvement this year because their running game is going to be so good. So they're the only school in the country, Dalton, with 2 of the 10 leading rushers in the nation from last year. And R.J. Harvey, who we talked about as one of our top 10 running backs in the country, and Penny Boone, who transfers in from Toledo. Both of them were among the 10 most leading rushers in the nation last year. No other school has 2 in the top 10. No other school has 2 in the top 30 for next year. So UCF has a loaded backfield with Harvey and Penny Boone. And then also Johnny Richardson ran for 550 yards last year as UCF's number 2 running back. They also added Miles Montgomery from Cincinnati in the transfer portal. He had a 90.6 rushing grade, which is 5th among the Big 12 running backs with at least 65 attempts. They also got a 4-star running back coming in as well, and Frankie Arthur. And then also, KJ Jefferson is their quarterback, one of the top dual-threat quarterbacks in the country, as well as an absolute tank in the ground game. So I think UCF's running game is going to be unbelievable and so difficult to stop. And in college football, it's different than the NFL, man. A great run game can absolutely carry an offense. And I think that's going to happen a lot for UCF next year. So UCF was the only one of the new Big 12 schools last year to make a bowl game. I think that's certainly possible, and I think the 7.5 right now, they could go 8-4 and surprise a lot of people with how good that run game is, man.
I'll tell you what, that's one of the fun stories in the Big 12 is just the Big 12 is absolutely stacked with running backs and running games, man. And I love the way Gus Malzahn coaches it down there in Orlando. Sorry. I'll tell you another coach who can coach up a running game and an offense, and that's Lance Leipold for the Kansas Jayhawks, man. We'll stay in the Big 12 with another elite running game, another elite offense, man. 9th in offensive grade last year. Kansas probably the quietest 9-4 team in the country last year, honestly. 2 different quarterbacks. Jalen Daniels got hurt. Jason Bean came in, led them still to a good season, ran their offense well. They used the width and depth of the field better than anybody. 9th in offensive grade, over 34 points per game for the Kansas Jayhawks. They cause headaches all over the place, and they don't even have like a boatload of NFL talent other than Devin Neal at running back, but they were 3rd in receiving grade last season behind Washington and Oregon, who had freak shows left and right at receiver, right? 20th in passing grade, despite playing 2 different quarterbacks, tied with Texas. We talk about Texas and Quinn Ewers and how they ran the Big 12 last year, and they had an identical passing grade to Kansas. The big thing here is just Jalen Daniels needing to play all 12 games and beyond, right? The last 2 years, he struggled with a lot of injuries. When he's on the field, really good, man. Really good athlete, can throw it really well down the middle. They use a lot of play action. They use more motion than any team in the country last year, and Andy Kotelnicki's gone, but I'm assuming they're going to keep that same tradition going. If Jalen Daniels is healthy for a full season, Kansas's offense can contend with the top teams in the Big 12. No question. They bring back their top 3 wide receivers. They bring back our number 8 back in the country in Devin Neal. Jalen Daniels just has to stay healthy. And their defense, look, they have issues stopping the run, which will be at a big premium. One of the big stories in the Big 12 is going to be who can stop the run. But Kansas can cover too now, man. Look, 27th in coverage grade last year. And they got a really good pair of corners in Mello Dotson and friend of the show, Kobe Bryant, who was 12th. He was actually their best run defender with an 88.8 run defense grade that was 12th among all corners. So there's a foundation here with the offense and with their ability to cover that Kansas could be a threat in the Big 12 as well.
The reason why I'm laughing, for anyone wondering, Kobe Bryant, friend of the show, he was DMing me all the time when we were putting our top 10 position rankings list, and he was DMing me saying like, "Hey man, like when's the quarterback's coming out? Like I can't wait to see it." And I was like, "Oh, should be in a couple weeks or so." He's like, "Oh dude, I love the stuff you guys do out there. Like keep killing it." I'm like, "Oh, I really appreciate that, man. Like we really had a good report going." Then I put him 10th in the ranking, which I thought was fair. He's a really, really talented player. And he was not happy about that. And basically he sent me the ranking and was like trash emoji and all that. And I was like, "I'm sorry, man. There's a lot of great corners in the nation. I'm sorry, dude." And he goes, "All right, bet." So we pissed him off, Dalton. If Kobe Bryant has an All-American season this year, it is because of the PFF college football show. Because
we could be wrong. Listen, you're right. We could have ignited it. We very well could be. I hope we're wrong. Honestly, yeah. I hope for all those guys to succeed, man. I mean, it's and he's a talented kid. Like he's a wicked physical kid, man.
Oh my god, after it so in the run physical,
game especially. Yeah. No, I mean, look, these lists, when we do these top 10s, they're not easy to make because there's so much talent in college football. It's getting better and better every year.
Yeah, exactly, man. And honestly, even though he might not like us right now, I love him because of the mentality he has. That's the mentality I want a corner to have, dude. He is an alpha, man. He plays pissed off on the field. He's pissed off on Twitter. He is everything you'd want in a corner, mentally, physically, everything, man. So Kobe Bryant, I know we're not maybe on the best of terms right now, man, but we are still rooting for you, and I'm still a big fan of your game and big fan of your mentality too, man, because you have a really hilarious mentality and demeanor on Twitter, I think, which is really great. All right, I'm going to go with the last. I swear to God, it's the last Big 12 team we're doing today. I'm going with West Virginia, who has an electric offense next year. A really great ground game, honestly. You see right there, 6.5 wins on FanDuel. Dude, they went 9-4 last year. This is a 9-win team at West Virginia last year, and it was 6.5. They bring back Garrett Green, who's one of our top 10 quarterbacks in the country, led the nation in big-time throw rate at 10.2%. Also tied for first among all quarterbacks in the country with 13 rushing touchdowns as well, and over almost 800 rushing yards. And really good at avoiding sacks. You got Wyatt Milan protecting him, who we just broke down in our top 10 offensive lineman video. And then also, behind him, they have one of the best backfields in the country. In West Virginia, with one of my top 10 running back units, Jaheim White led all true freshmen last year with 842 yards, and he averaged 7.7 yards per carry, which led the nation for running backs. As a true freshman, he led the nation in yards per carry, and then C.J. Donaldson is behind him. He had 11 rushing touchdowns last year, which was 4th in the Big 12, only behind Ollie Gordon, Devin Neal, and R.J. Harvey. All 3 of those guys are top 10 running backs in the country, in our opinion. So great number 1 running back, great number 2 running back. Aubrey Burks at safety is one of the best safeties in the country, in my opinion, as well. I have no earthly idea, Dalton, how a team that went 9-4 last year and brings back so much production is all of a sudden a 6.5 win total for 2024. So West Virginia, I think, is criminally underrated right now.
I think, and we have so many of these teams from the Big 12, and we're going to get out of it here, but I think it's because it's so wide open. I don't know if anybody knows what to expect in the Big 12. We're going to be talking about Colorado, too, a ton. It might actually – I know the SEC and the Big 10 are always the big stories, but the Big 12 might be the most fun conference next year, man. It feels like almost everybody has a chance. But we're going to get away from it for a minute, at least for the rest of this show. Let me go to the ACC. And I think an interesting team that came on late in the season was Georgia Tech, right? And I know they were in the spotlight when they had a big shootout upset of North Carolina, but they really started to turn it on, especially offensively late in the year. You got to remember with Georgia Tech, they hadn't been to a bowl game before last year since 2018. Right. So for them to come out and have a winning season, it just changes the vibe of it. And I think the ACC is very wide open, too. I know Clemson and Florida State, maybe Louisville will probably be the favorites heading into it. But you got some teams that can score, and you're going to get into another one in a minute. But Georgia Tech had over 31 points a game. They won 4 of their last 6, including that North Carolina win. And the 2 guys driving this whole thing, I think I should just call them the law firm. It's Haynes and Haynes, right? Haynes King at quarterback, right? Transfer from Texas A&M, his first year starting. Look, 86.4 clean pocket grade, which is really, really good considering, especially his first year starting. When they protect him, he can make throws. He led the ACC in passing touchdowns. He was 3rd in the ACC in big-time throws, and he's a legitimate rushing threat. 811 rushing yards for the year and 7 touchdowns in his last 5 games. Haynes King, I think, with another year under his belt, another year of practice, and he's returning his top 2 receivers, including Eric Singleton Jr., who's really, really good. He was really good as a freshman last year. And then Jamal Haynes in the backfield behind him, okay? This dude he's actually a guy for a moment I considered putting in my top 10 running backs. I'll tell you what, he came on late last year at a 1,000-yard season, 86.8 rushing grade, and a 98.7 game athleticism score. This guy can fly, man. Jamal Haynes can fly. Georgia Tech's got balance and explosiveness on their offense, and if they can pass protect a little bit better, they're really dangerous. From week 9 to the end of last year, they were 3rd in rushing grade, mainly on the back of the quarterback and the running back there, and 27th in EPA per play. This is a quiet, really good offense that just needs to block a little bit better, and they need a little bit of help from their defense. But I think Georgia Tech's going to put some scare into some teams at the top of the ACC.
I think it's certainly possible, man. I certainly think it's possible with Haynes King still there, who's a really talented quarterback and a very underrated quarterback in my opinion too. And yeah, I think Georgia Tech's a great call off there. I'm going to go with another Tech in the ACC, and that is Virginia Tech, who is the most experienced team in college football, Don. That's really the only way to put it. They return 22 starters from last year, which is the most in the country. So they won 7-6 last year. Over/under for them is 8.5 right now. I think underrated is maybe a little unfair. I think that is about the win total that I would say for them. But, man, it doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about them when it comes to the top teams in the ACC, and they should be, man. Because I think Virginia Tech, with the amount of experience they have on that team, they bring all their starters on offense, including Kyron Jones, the quarterback, is a really, really good quarterback. Ollie Jennings at wide receiver. Jalen Lane at wide receiver, too, is really good. Bashal Tutin is a really good running back. That offense should be really good. Defensively, they had issues last year, but they bring back 9 starters. And then they also added some big-time players like Aeneas Peebles, dude, from Duke, the D-tackle, in my opinion, one of the top D-tackles in the country heading into next season. I had him in my top 10 list. He had number 9. He had a 90.1 pass rushing grade last year, which was second among all D-tackles in the country. Only one ahead of him was Byron Murphy, who ended up being a first-round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. So Aeneas Peoples is an excellent pass rusher on the interior defensive line. With the amount of experience that Virginia Tech has right now, and I don't think a lot of people are talking about them in what is a wide-open ACC, I think Virginia Tech has a great chance to compete for an ACC championship next year with the amount of experience they have, and there's some talented players they brought in too.
I agree, and it's especially because Kyron Drones is so good at running the football, man. If they just find a little more in the passing game, they're really dangerous. I'm going to take to a Big Ten team, and not a team that I would expect to compete at the very top with Ohio State, and Oregon, and Michigan, but I think a team that's going to get things turned around pretty quick, and that's Indiana, or maybe I should just call them the James Madison Hoosiers. Kurt Cignetti coming in there as the new head coach from James Madison. So 15 of his projected 22 starters this year are transfers, right?
Yeah.
9 of those 15 are directly from James Madison. Okay, he's bringing the whole crew that was 10-0 and had all the hype, and then lost to App State and lost a little bit of it. But we were talking about James Madison as a New Year's Six candidate before they lost to App State, right? They, Jalen Green suffered an injury. They lost their best pass rusher, and their pass protection let them down a bit down the stretch. But I'll tell you what, this defense is real that he had there last year, man. 13th in the country in defensive grade, and top 25 in run D, pass rush, and coverage. They were balanced, man. This was legitimately not because of Sun Belt, not because whatever you want to say about level of competition. This was a legitimate defense. D'Angelo Pons is one of the best corners in the country. 89.7 overall last year, 7th best. Jalen Walker, check this out, Max. Over the last 2 years, a 91.4 overall grade. That's only behind 2 guys in the entire country, and that's 2 guys who were actually in the NFL last season, and this is just based off 2022, Ivan Pace and Jack Campbell. So of any linebacker who's played over both years of the last 2 years in college football, Jalen Walker is the best one. So you've got this is legit. Sometimes the grading, look, can it be tilted a bit because Sun Belt, but he was a 90 in 2022. He was an 80 last year. He's really, really good. And then you've got a bunch of other guys there. Other starting linebacker, Aiden Fisher, James Carpenter, and Mikael Kamara on the defensive line. Like Indiana, I fully expect their defense to be really good. They're bringing all the same players from that James Madison unit. They're really talented players. This is like not like a hype up thing. College game day wasn't college game day at James Madison. Yeah. Like that's how hyped this thing got when they were 10-0, right? The question will be what Curtis Rourke can give them at quarterback on the offensive side, the Ohio transfer, who had a solid career at Ohio, as did his brother Nathan, who's been bouncing around NFL practice squads and things like that. But I'm a believer in Cignetti. I'm a believer in Indiana's defense and what they can bring. I think that style in the Big Ten is really going to play up there. It's just a matter of how much their offense will give them. But I'll be honest with you. I think Indiana could make a bowl game, man. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible right now. I think Indiana's a great call for you. And yeah, I love Kurt Cignetti, man. I think it was a great hire by Indiana, and I think he's going to turn it around pretty quickly. I don't know if they ever have the capabilities of like you said, competing for the top of the Big Ten, just because the amount of resources they have compared to the other top conferences. But they could absolutely be one of that next tier of teams and be a really solid team in the next tier, which they weren't honestly last year at all. Last team I'm going to go with here is SMU, who I think is a top 25 team in the country, and I think they're a serious ACC contender next year in their first year in the ACC and their first year as a Power 4 team too. So last year there were only 4 teams who had a top 10 offensive grade in the country and a top 10 defensive grade in the country. They were Michigan, Alabama, Notre Dame, and SMU. Those were your 4. So SMU all around was a great team last year. Preston Stone, the best group of 5 quarterback in the country, best group of 5 quarterback probably last year as well. They have a great offensive line returning. Even though Branson Hickman left in the transfer portal, they still have a really, really good offensive line with guys like Justin Osborne there. Logan Parr is still there as well. They got Savion Byrd from Oklahoma in the transfer portal. So it's a really good offensive line. You got protecting him. Just a really good team all around. Defensively, you got some really great players like Elijah Roberts, an edge defender, is a great edge defender. He graded out super highly for us last year. Ahmad Walker, one of the highest graded linebackers in the country last year as well. You had guys like Isaiah Nwokobia, the safety, who was a really, really highly graded safety as well. So I think, and with Rhett Lashley, we actually interviewed. You want to check out that interview on the channel. Great head coach, and they're really cooking with gas right now, man. And I think a lot of people are probably anticipating SMU having a rough transition to the Power Four, like the 4 new Big 12 teams last year in Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF did. That's not the case, man. I think SMU is one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the ACC right now, and I think they're absolutely, in a wide open ACC, they are absolutely in the thick of an ACC championship race right now. So SMU has got a great chance to surprise a lot of people, I think, next year and maybe be in the ACC title game. We'll see.
Two things real quick. One, absolutely, Elijah Roberts. Absolutely love watching him. He's fantastic. I'm telling you, if there's a sleeper edge player in the entire country, it's Elijah Roberts. Second in overall grade behind Leatu Latu, second in pressures behind Braylon Trice. This dude is absolutely legit off the edge. And question for you, does SMU have the best offense in the ACC?
Ooh. Maybe. I'll say, I'm trying to think of who else I would put up there right now. Maybe, honestly. Because it won't be Clemson.
I think it's a legitimate question. I really think so.
Yeah, because Florida State's got a lot of unproven guys in that, and they have a great O-line, but the rest of it's unproven. Yeah, I think I might go SMU. Oh wait, no, I'll go Miami.
Oh, you're right. You're riding with the Hurricanes.
Dude,
Cam Ward. Going with it.
So just because I'll kind of actually not spoil, the article's out already. Miami had a top 10 running back unit, top 10 receiving core, and top 10 offensive line for me. So really, the only thing is can Cam Ward be the guy? And he's got all the potential in the world. So yeah, I'll say Miami is the best offense in the ACC, but SMU is definitely up there for sure.
I feel you. I mean, they're balanced. It's surprising how much balance they play with, and we'll see if they can do it week in and week out in the ACC, because their 3 losses last year were Oklahoma, TCU, Boston College. So
yeah,
got to go out and prove it. But I love their talent and just the whole depth, and everything's coming back. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we got for our most underrated teams in college football heading into the 2024 season. Let us know in the comments who you think is getting criminally slept on right now, and maybe the betting odds that you see right now, or just in terms of just nobody talking about them. Who are the teams that you think deserve a lot more love this offseason? So, yes, we got for our most underrated teams. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this coming very, very soon.